a second. I'm not going to do that one today. I'm going to have to save that one till tomorrow. Why? Well, because I was outside and just this little tiny puncture right here on my thumb happens to be right in the spot that when I'm playing, it hits. So I'm not going to do that today. Today we're going to do something different, just to kind of hold off a little bit and let this thing heal up. That's what happens when you, just a little thing, it can disrupt everything. That's a lesson in life in itself, tending to those little things. And I'm going to do that by not doing that song. It's just too much. Let's talk a little bit about the fretboard instead. Let's do I've got it written down here. What was it that I wanted to do here? How about if we do something called Did You Know? How's that? That'll work, won't it? Did you know? All right, well, let's see if you do. You probably do know some of this. And some of you, it might be a new aha moment, and I'm hoping that happens. Because in knowing these little things, sometimes it opens up these big things. So here we go. First of all, I want to show you the wonder of the C chord. They say, what? Well, you know, sometimes it really helps just to sit and just look at your fingerboard and think about the chords and think about how they're formed and what they sound like and what the differences are from note to note. For instance, when you play the C chord in the first position, and there's different forms that you can do this. Some people play it like this. And of course you can play it in different places on your fingerboard. But we're not talking about that. I'm just looking at this right here. And one thing that stands out to me and really is helpful to know is the fact that this note here is an octave higher to this note here. So when you play the C chord, that note is the same as this note. Well, guess what note it is? It's a C. There's two C's there. Well, that's really neat to know. Why? Well, for a couple of reasons. If this is a C and this is a C, that means if you play anything off of this note, it's going to be the same here except an octave higher. Right? Okay, so that's good to know. Well, what else? What else about that would be good? Well, it means if you slide up to, some people call them half steps, some people call them half tones, some people call them semitones. Each one of these, I call them 2 frets. If you move up 2 frets, okay? There we go, right there. And you make that same formation, stands to reason that this note should be the same as this note, right? And so looking at that, this is C, that's a D, then that means that has to be a D. My goodness, now we know if this is C and this is D, we know that if we go up the fingerboard, that's going to stand true all the way up the fingerboard. So it's a good way to find notes, right? So that's another good thing about it. There's D, D, and D. And once again, it's just an octave difference because that C chord is just simply wonderful. The formation works so well. So it works all the way up the fingerboard. So you go to C, to D, to E, and E to F is only 1 fret. And you go up 2 frets. There's the G, 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 G. And by the way, if you complete that C shape there, and you bring in that 4th string, it's a good way to play C, G up here. You want to kind of mute or not touch. Well, you could. Because that's the same, that's a G, and that's a G. So there's there's a nice G chord right there. Isn't that great? There we go. And it's all because C, it works for C. What's good for C is good for G. Okay, so that's one thing to know. So we stare at the fingerboard a little bit more and we start thinking about, well, the way the guitar is tuned. That's what I think about. I think it's really weird to me that we have E, A, D, G, B, E, right? That's that, and if you don't know that, learn it. E, A, D, G, B, E. You gotta know that, okay? All right, now there's something special about that as well, because in between each of the strings falls five, okay? 5 semitones, or 5 half tones, or 5 half steps, or 5 frets, okay? And so that's good for all the strings except for one, okay? It's not good for the B string. The B string is 4, okay? So from G to B is 4. So what does that remind you of? Well, when we tune, we move up 5 frets, right? 5, because 5 is the semitones between strings. We can move up 5 frets, and this should match this string, right? Well, let's count it out. This is the E string, right? So we got E to F. E to F is all E to F, B to C. Always just 1 fret, or 1 semitone, or 1 half step, whatever you want to talk about. But you got to remember that E to F, B to C. Okay, so E to F. So there we go. So we go E to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and then A. So the next string has to be A. And so if we go up 5 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they should match. That's how we tune, right? It's 5. It's because there's 5 half steps between each string, except for the B string. It's got to be different. It's only 4, right? So I think that's pretty awesome right there. Now, it's the way we tune, except there's a G to B, you got to move back. But if you remember that 5 and that 4 for that special B, now you know how to tune. It's why we use that, okay? And well, we also know if we play the 5th here, the 5th fret, that if we move over 2 strings and move down 2 frets, they're an octave higher. But there's one other thing I want to show you. So if we move up 5 frets, we know that's going to be the next string, right? With the exception of B. So that means if we move up here to any of these notes, okay? So let's take, well, let's do the C, okay? So there's the C note. And believe me, you should learn these notes. It's easy to do if you know this is E, and E to F, and then G, then A, then B, and then B to C. If you learn that, it'll help you a lot, okay? And you should be able to look at your fingerboard and know that's G, that's A, that's B. And just learn it. Get it down, get it in your head. G, and that's A, and that's B, okay? That'll help you right there, because if this is B, this has to be C, and this is C, that has to be D, and D to E, okay? So learn that on this string here. Learn it, memorize it for the next string as well, the 5th string, okay? Because you got an A to B is 1, or A to B, and then B to C is 1 semitone, 1 half step, and so on. Learn both of those strings. And in knowing them, just knowing right off the bat, this is C, this is D, so this has to be E. And this is G, and this is A, and then this has to be B. Just knowing those 3 references will show you many references, okay? Because if you know this is G, then you know that's G. And if you know that's C, you know that's C. And if you know this is D, then you know that's D. I mean, it helps to have those references. Okay. Okay, so I hope you found that interesting and that you spend a little time with it. And tomorrow, I'm sure my finger will have healed up enough. We'll work on that song, all right? Okay, I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in this world.